My days working, taking care of my little ones can be a lot. I checked out care.com and it was so easy for me to find local, experienced, and background check sitters. Finding our babysitter was way more affordable than I thought. Care.com makes it super easy. Search for qualified candidates. You can view their profiles, read reviews and ratings, check their availability, send messages directly, and get the help that you need. Care.com should be every person's go-to.
This is GoPowerCat.com publisher Tim Fitzgerald. Thank you for listening to this PowerCat podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode of the PowerCat podcast by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, or your favorite podcast network. And if you enjoy this podcast, please consider becoming a subscriber to GoPowerCat.com. We cover the Wildcats like no one else, with our VIP customers enjoying one-of-a-kind coverage from our team of professional journalists. And sign up today for an annual subscription to GPC and grab a 30% discount on your first year. And now here's the PowerCat Podcast.
The following is a GoPowerCat.com and Spirit Street production. You've discovered your link to GoPowerCat.com's PowerCat Postgame podcast, presented by Caddyshack Golf, and it starts right now. Now, let's go to the WTC Gig-Powered Studios. Here's your host, GoPowerCat.com publisher, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to a very special edition of the PowerCat Postgame podcast sponsored by Caddyshack Golf. Kansas State has upset number 5 Oklahoma 48-41 on Saturday at Bill Snyder Family Stadium. Tim Fitzgerald and football analyst Brian Hanley from the WTC Gig-Powered Studios. And also, thank you to Learfield IMG, the Kansas State Sports Network, Wyatt Thompson, Stan Weber, Matt Walters, for giving us access to these great calls throughout this podcast. It's a pleasure to hear them and how they articulate Kansas State sports for the fan base. Lots of highlights, lots of post-game quotes. We're going to get after it right now. Brian, I tweeted this and probably should save it for my business instead of putting it on Twitter. Look, man, I covered that 2003 Big 12 championship game, and I confidently called the upset of K-State over Oklahoma. That Oklahoma team was unbeatable, untouchable, but what people were missing about K-State was injuries had sidetracked K-State during that season, and although the Wildcats had 3 losses, they were healthy and ready to click, and they clicked in Kansas City and beat that Oklahoma team. Some want to call it the upset of the century. For me, Brian, this was a bigger win. This was a more surprising win. Maybe not a bigger win in terms of context, but a more shocking outcome, because honestly, I know you got to play the game, but this one was almost felt like a no-doubter. I treated it like that, and I was completely wrong.
Yeah, I mean, looking back at everything and looking at today, the difference is you're exactly right. K-State was injured that year, but K-State had some talented football players on that 2003 team. It might be the most talented, and I'm obviously biased to the 98 team, but that might be one of the most talented teams that K-State's ever had. So this is not that way. But you know what? I don't care. These guys came to play. Yeah. I've been hard on Skyler. I've been hard on the coaching staff, and I've really been hard on the offensive line. All 3 today were outstanding. Can't give them enough credit.
So much to unravel as we proceed through this PowerCat postgame podcast. We are sponsored by our good friends at Caddyshack Golf. Caddy with 2 T's. Visit CaddyshackGolf.com for all of your officially licensed Golfing Willie apparel, accessories, and more. Use code GPC for free shipping on your next order. And if you are listening to this podcast and you are not a subscriber to GoPowerCat.com, we are having a flash sale to celebrate a big win. It's a big discount, the biggest one we've ever done. 60% off an annual subscription for a very limited time at Go PowerCat. Get over there. Don't miss out. You're going to want to follow the rest of this football season, obviously. They're one win away from bowl eligibility now. And after watching that Emporia State exhibition, okay, it's an exhibition, I feel a lot better about Kansas State basketball this year. Those three freshmen are really promising for the Wildcats. You want the inside scoop. You want that VIP experience, 60% off. Don't mess around. Don't let it expire. And then you tweet at me, when are you having a next special? This is it. Pull the trigger. Let's start off, number one, with that offensive line. What were they doing differently, Brian, in this game than we've seen the first three games of Big 12 where they were really stymied?
Well, it kind of goes back to the things that I had been calling for. They opened up a couple of different plays. I saw the interior line, like the line would block down, but the play side guard would back out and kick out on defensive end. They were just doing some different things, but, to be honest, they were just pushing them around. I mean, the guys were just being physical, and OU has a really good front seven. I mean, so let's not kid ourselves and think, oh, this is the same OU defense from the past. It is not. They've got some big defensive tackles. They got super fast linebackers. They were out there just pushing them around. So I don't know that they necessarily did anything different other than they played physical. And it looked like we had a game plan that either maybe they just bought into or the coaching staff put something special together, but they weren't really – they were just playing well. They just got back to the things that they did the first three games of the year. We didn't mess around. A lot of the things, though, we caught them in some slants and twists because that's what their O-line likes to do. They like to stem at the line of scrimmage. They like to slant. They like to twist. And we were catching them in it because every now and then they would catch us and we would have a couple, a 5-yard loss or something. But we were catching them in it. And when we were catching them in it, it wasn't like a 5-yard gain. It was like a 15-yard gain, a 12-yard gain here. And but for the most part, we were just pushing them off the line of scrimmage, which is exactly what everybody had been calling for.
It seemed like anything else in the game of football or any sport, you kind of got a rhythm going, and that offensive line settled into a rhythm. They were almost predicting exactly how OU was defending plays. Things were opening up all across the line, and the running backs were doing a great job of blocking for each other, receivers downfield. It was just very effective. And K-State started chunking off runs. Here's an early one from James Gilbert.
Here's the handoff and a big hole for Gilbert. 50, 45, 40, 35-yard line of Oklahoma. They'll mark him with a knee down at the 36. Delarian Turner-Yell is the Oklahoma tackler. Another big run for the Wildcats.
Oklahoma was so good on that first drive, you kind of thought, oh, boy, they're just going to dominate K-State. And then they just kind of settled in. And it was almost like they started peeling back that onion. Okay, we've established this. Now we're going to add this in. And now we're going to do this. And now we're going to do this. They had OU utterly confused to the very end.
Yeah, they did. Everything that we were doing was working. It was I can't give the coaching staff enough credit. I just can't. They had the kids ready. They had us ready. They put together a masterful plan, and it seemed like we were in their head. It seemed like they're in their head. No, and that was the thing is that, our coaching staff, we outcoached them. One thing that OU has prided themselves on the last basically 3 or 4 years is running the football. Well, the running backs, I think, had, 7 carries total? I'm like, that's not going to – I don't know what they were doing. I don't know what they were thinking, but they literally stopped running the ball with running backs. Now, I know Hurts is great, and I'm not taking that away from him, but you got to run the football with your running backs if you're going to pride yourself on running the football, and they didn't do that. And that was to our advantage, and it worked. That's too bad for them.
That Oklahoma offense is incredible. There's no way you can get around it. Here's the perfect example. Did you know they only ran 53 plays in the game and had 497 yards for 9.4 a play? The key here was down the stat sheet. 38 minutes of possession for the Kansas State offense. They can't keep racking up yards and plays if they're on the sideline, and K-State ran a far greater number of plays. I'm looking for the number right here. Yeah. Woo. Well, I'll find it. It was just really impressive. 73 plays on the offense side of the ball for Kansas State. They played keep away, and it just really was amazing. Skylar Thompson had an interesting quote here about the process and buying in and trusting the coaches and the game plan. I love this.
Coach Kleiman just preaches us to just like focus on one day at a time, one play at a time, one game at a time, and don't treat any week different than any other week. Like, you know, what I thought what stood out to me about Coach Kleiman this week, there wasn't one moment where he really mentioned that we're playing the number 5 team in the country. Like, he just approached it like he did every week this season. Like, there was nothing like, oh, we got to step it up more, we got to do this, we got to do that. It was just like, no, like, we got to trust the process and like trust our coaching, trust our, you know, and our teammates, trust the process.
That was really good stuff from Skylar Thompson. The quote goes on, but Skylar is a talker, we'll put it that way. And he was excited. He said something really interesting, Brian, after the game. It took him forever to get to the media room. He'd done media. He'd talked on the field. He'd hugged his father. But he was extremely emotional after the game. And he said, "I'm sorry I'm late, guys. I sat in the locker room for 20 minutes trying to wrap my mind around it." It really is kind of mind-blowing what K-State did. And here's why for me. It wasn't the fact they won, which was surprising in itself, but they didn't do it because of anything fluky. They were the better team on the football field, and like Skylar said, trust the process. K-State made Herculean jumps ahead in their process of turning into a better football team. They ran the ball better, they threw the ball better, they tackled better, they still were good on special teams. They moved down the road quite a bit.
Yeah, they did. It was very interesting, but exciting to see. Now, the one thing to keep in mind, we don't want to start overlooking and upping expectations, because when you do that, you know, sometimes, you know, you got to remember these are still kids. So the thing about it is that we are ahead. Let's just stay ahead. We don't have to up our expectations and expect this and expect that, because we're just asking for letdowns. And we don't need to put that kind of pressure on the kids. So just keep just what he said. Just trust the process. But we're ahead of the game. I'll say that. I have no qualms with that. We are ahead of the game, and that is a testament to the coaching staff.
It really is. It was a marvelous game plan on both sides of the ball. Even though that defense gave up some yardage, they gave Jalen Hurts some issues. And I say that with all respect, because the guy ran the ball 19 times for 96 yards. He was 19 of 26 for 395 yards passing, and yet they limited his damage. He didn't have those game-changing big plays throughout the contest. He had one really nice throw and catch to CeeDee Lamb, but other than that, they kind of bottled him up. They used Wyatt Hubert. On the inside quite a bit. I thought it was very interesting, and they really just kind of messed with him and spied him and wouldn't let him get free. That guy's incredible. He is Michael Bishop.
Yes.
He really is. He does some things you go, yeah, that's Mike. He drops a snap, picks it up, wings it downfield. I'm going, that's Bishop. That's incredible. But K-State didn't let him run wild, and it was really impressive.
It was impressive. The defense, I know they gave up a lot of yards. I know they gave up a lot of points. Some of those you can attest to, hey, we thought the game was over. Young kids let their foot off the gas, because we were literally in control of that football game on both sides of the ball till the middle of the fourth quarter. I mean, we just were. We were in control. So, and we had them under control. We had the offense under control. Defense played magnificent, and then that just goes to show you how good OU is. We let our foot off just a little bit, and they took it completely off and put it back the other direction and got themselves back into the football game. So that just kind of goes to show you what our margin for error is.
Yep.
But doesn't really matter. We won the football game. That's all that I care about today. We won the football game. I didn't think it was a game that we could win. I knew we would go out there and play hard, which is what I was asking for. Hey, just go play hard. Just go play hard. Well, hey, they played hard.
Kansas State took a 24-23 lead at halftime. That in itself was impressive. But that third quarter was remarkable. K-State had won the toss. They deferred to the second half like most coaches will do, and K-State then took that opening kickoff and got points. And then the defense got a 3-and-out, and they got points. And then the defense got a 3-and-out, and they got points. K-State outscored Oklahoma 17-0 in the third quarter. Oklahoma ran 6 plays for 12 yards in the entire third quarter. It was remarkable. That defensive effort was remarkable in some stretches. And that's about the time you saw OU like, oh, crap, this is happening. All of a sudden they're down, and they're just struggling to come back. Early in the fourth quarter, it goes to 48-23, and that was the knockout blow in some ways because that's a lot of points to make up in 12 minutes.
Yep. Defense, like I said, third quarter, remarkable. Defense, outstanding. We were in control of the game. I mean, offense, defense, we were the more physical football team. And 9 times out of 10, when you're a more physical football team, I know that's old cliche-ish, but football doesn't really change a whole lot when it comes to that. When you're the more physical football team, you usually win the game. And K-State was clearly the more physical football team. And we won the football game. I mean, that's all we can ask for. Thought it was a great effort by everybody.
Yeah, it really was. It was amazing. We talked about running the ball effectively, and every coach wants his balance in that offense. How about this? 213 on the ground, 213 through the air for the Wildcats. They ran the ball 45 times. James Gilbert, my goodness, this young man has been a find. 13 carries, 105 yards, 1 touchdown. He had 1 lost yard in the game. That tells you all you need to know about how much Kansas State was dominating that offensive line. Jordan Brown, 12 carries. He came back for the Wildcats, 63 total yards. Skylar Thompson, 13 carries, 39 total yards, but 4 touchdowns in the game because he was so good he couldn't be stopped. And for me, Brian, this was one of the biggest plays of the game.
3rd and 10 Cats at the Sooner 14-yard line, trailing in the game 20-17 with 30 seconds to go. Second period. Here come the Sooners. Thompson runs. He's at the 10, to the 5. Wildcat touchdown! Wildcat touchdown! Skylar Thompson from 14 yards away, and K-State has the lead with 23 seconds to go in the period.
Brian, 3rd and 10 at the 14. And it looks like you're just going to get a field goal before halftime and go in tied up. And lo and behold, Skylar Thompson with a beautiful read on the quarterback draw. And then he would not be tackled. He was hit at about the 2 or so and still got in. This was his best game by far as a Wildcat. 18-28 throwing the ball. He made some really tight window throws. How about Skylar Thompson?
He talked about how he had to play consistent throughout the year. He had to take steps forward. And in the recent weeks, he hadn't played the greatest. I mean, he came up huge last week. And kind of what we talked about at the very beginning of the season, confidence. He didn't play his best game last week, but at the end, when we needed him to play his best, he did. That rolled over into this week. It's all part of confidence and building that confidence. Well, he did that last week. It rolled over into this week. He played extremely well this week. So I'm excited to see where he goes from here, because we're going to go just like most teams go as far as on offensive side of the ball, what your quarterback does. And he just had a great football game, controlled the game, ran it when he needed to run it, got rid of the football when he needed to get rid of the football, made some outstanding throws, timely, accurate throws. And this was clearly kind of what you said, by far the best game that he's played as a Kansas State Wildcat, and couldn't have happened at a better time.
18 completions in the game to 9 different receivers. How about that stat? That really jumps out at you. Dalton Schoen led the way with 5 catches. Youngblood with 3. Malik Knowles with 2. It's good to have Malik out there. He makes a huge difference, and here's one of his catches.
Jordan Brown is the running back. Here's Skylar with a play fake. Wants to throw. Has good protection. Into the middle. Knowles at the 30-yard line. First down, K-State.
Our appreciation to Learfield IMG, the Kansas State Sports Network, for providing us with these highlights. They did not have my favorite throw of the game on their clips, and it was a throw that Skyler made towards the front of the end zone with Sammy Wheeler. He put the ball, pinpointed it through three guys. It was a really narrow window throw to his tight end. Man, it was impressive. Skyler was so confident as this game went on. It was remarkable to see a guy blossom like that.
Yeah, it was. It was really fun to watch. And I'm really happy for him. I'm excited for him. Because, like I said, it wasn't just me. People have kind of just been like, hey, I thought he was going to be better. He hadn't played as consistent. And like I said, last week, and then to come out and to play the way that he did today is just so – I'm just so excited for him. I'm so happy for him. And I really think that this is going to be the turning point to just skyrocket into. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but I just believe that his confidence level has to be at an all-time high, and I don't see why that can't carry him for the rest of his career.
You can't take anything for granted. Ask Oklahoma. They probably thought they were going to roll in here and get a win. You know, in hindsight, Texas is the only team with a winning record they had played, I guess. I read that stat. They have really kind of had it easy so far. Maybe they got into a fight they didn't expect. It was just fascinating to watch how the tide turned in this game emotionally. And you just saw the reality kind of settled in with OU that we're down 3-4 scores in the fourth quarter. We got to play perfect. But, man, they were almost good enough to get it done. They came so close to picking up a onside kick that would have really changed everything, and then K-State got away with the win. Remarkable how K-State persisted. And I guess that's where I'm going with this. Even when things weren't going quite right, they got down by 2 scores early in this game, and they got back on their way back. And then Oklahoma rattles off 18 straight, and they didn't succumb to it. Really a sign of persistence. And great teams, good teams, well-coached teams, teams that have self-belief win games like this, don't they?
Like I said, I cannot give credit to the coaching staff enough. I mean, they did a great job of preparing. And like you said, good teams don't fall victim when they are in control. They don't lose those games. They just don't lose those games. Now, that also is a testament to how good OU is, because OU, once they figured out, hey, we're behind, they turned it on and almost came back. And we weren't giving it to them either. It's not like we just laid down for them. They took control of the football game and got themselves back into it. But you know what? The guys just fought. They fought, and we won the football game. And that's all that you can ask for at the end of the day.
Kansas State beats number 5 Oklahoma 48-41 on a beautiful day at Bill Snyder Family Stadium. K-State moves to 5-2 in the season, 2-2 in Big 12 play. Oklahoma falls to 7-1 overall, and of course that's their first Big 12 loss. And guys like Wyatt Hubert could see it in their eyes. They didn't know how to play from behind. They didn't know how to handle what was happening to them. As we go to our break on the PowerCat Postgame podcast, sponsored by Caddyshack Golf, let's hear from the man himself, Wyatt Hubert, who was really big at defensive end for K-State and some defensive tackle as they really flustered an explosive OU offense.
Teams like OU aren't used to facing adversity like that, and the motto this week was just keep pounding it on them. Jalen Hurts probably isn't used to getting quarterback pressures, quarterback hits. Before going into this game, he only got sacked 3 times throughout the whole season. So that was the main thing for our defensive line. Just go out there, put pressure on them.
Stay locked in. The PowerCat podcast will be right back.
With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.
So I'm a father of one. I gotta find a babysitter. I found Care.com and I was blown away. Through the platform, I was able to find local and experienced candidates along with their reviews and rates, which were way more affordable than I anticipated. Care.com really put me at ease knowing that they were all required to go through a background check. If you're like me and you need to find someone reliable for your childcare necessities, check out Care.com. Find the ideal sitters for your childcare needs.
We now send it back to Fitz in the WTC Gig-Powered Studios.
Welcome back to the PowerCat Postgame Podcast, sponsored by Caddy Shack Golf. A couple things here, a little business, 60% off a subscription right now at gopowercat.com. Annual sub, 60% off. Best deal we've ever done. We're celebrating a huge win for the Wildcats and giving you a huge discount. Now is the time to subscribe. Get it done. You won't believe the coverage my guys have been providing our subscribers, our VIP customers. I'm really proud of the work we've been doing. And we are sponsored by Caddy Shack Golf. That's Caddy with 2 T's. For K-Staters, by K-Staters, jackets, hats, polos, t-shirts, golf accessories. Caddy Shack Golf Wear, Caddy with 2 T's. Visit caddyshackgolf.com and use the code GPC for free shipping on your next order. And we will have a Caddy Shack Golf question of the week from one of our subscribers at Wabash Station over at gopowercat.com as we get into your questions here for myself and Brian. And let's just jump into what I think is a really good question here from the Incredible Gulk. Great name. Do you think the injuries to Jordan Brown and Malik Knowles are a big reason why the offense has struggled? And it seemed like having those guys back really kind of clicked everything into place for Kansas State.
I definitely think it had something to do with it. I don't believe that was everything, but you can see when Malik is out there, when he's out on the field, even as just a decoy, he causes other things to open up. So clearly that's a good thing. I mean, and as far as Brown, he brings another element to the game. And I just think that having those two guys back opens up a lot. And maybe the coaching staff knows something. I mean, they're the coaches. They're there for a reason. They know things that we don't know. So clearly, it just seemed like the offense was totally different today. Yeah. So maybe they know some things that we don't know, which is a good thing. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But they absolutely open more things up for the offense when they're out there. No question.
It strikes me that they're beginning to understand their weapons and who does what well. They got the ball to Joaquin Gill a little bit in the passing game. Dalton Schoen, when they needed a big play, he was the target a lot of the time. And this play by Josh Youngblood was another touchdown. I believe it was second touchdown of the game for K-State. And this young freshman just has something about him, Brian. He just got this extra thing. When you see it, you know it. And I can't quite describe it. It's not just that he's quick and fast. He just knows how to play football. Here we go. Touchdown by Josh Youngblood.
In the pistol, gets the snap, hands the ball off to Youngblood. He got to the corner. Wildcat touchdown. Joshua Youngblood scores.
Our thanks to Learfield IMG and Wyatt Thompson, voice of the Wildcats, for their highlights here. It really adds a lot to the show. They really did open it up. And one of the things that I noticed today is they finally used the inverted diamond, the inverted wishbone, with the 3 backs. They had Trotter, Gilbert, and Brown on the field together. And, they had Trotter getting at people on the edge and running the ball out there in space. They outnumbered them on the edge sometimes with that formation. They haven't been able to do that without a healthy Jordan Brown because they just haven't. That doesn't give you enough threat there. They they ran it a little bit later with big old Jack Stanine back there, and it just didn't seem the same thing. You never felt like you knew they weren't going to hand the ball to Jacks. But they opened up the playbook and really gave OU some things that they just didn't know how to handle.
That was the key, is opening up the playbook. I know we talked about that a little bit on the pregame, is, hey, let's open it up and let's just see what happens. Open up the kitchen, throw the kitchen sink at them. Let's see what happens. And they did that. They opened up a lot of things, and we ran a lot of different things, and it opened it up for us. So I was happy to see it, and I hope we continue it the rest of the season. But I think also having those healthy guys in the backfield, I think, helps. I just believe, and not just in the backfield, but also as far as Malik as well. But having those guys healthy, I believe that helps open up everything for everything else. And like I said, the coaching staff did a magnificent job this game. So clearly they know what's best. They know what they're doing, and got to give them credit.
Yeah, Jordan Brown with a big reception in the game. Having him coming out of the backfield as a real threat to catch the ball is important for K-State. Skyler hit him in the numbers, hit him so hard he almost dropped the ball, but he was able to hold on to it. But, yeah, it just diversifies your offense so much. Let's move on to another question. This one's from Purple Pancho Villa. How big was that D-line today? Brian, man, you look at the running stats, you look at some of these stats and go, but they were disruptive. They didn't let Jalen Hurts get loose too often. It was just really impressive.
Yeah, it was. And the times that he did get loose, they weren't really quarterback runs. They were, they dropped back to pass, right, and he ran the football. So it wasn't like design runs. The defensive line controlled the line of scrimmage, I thought, for the most part, the whole football game. I mean, they did things that we wanted them to do all year. It was great to see. I mean, they played a very, very good game. And they just got after him. And that's all we can ask. Hey, just get after him. Just get physical and get after him. And they did. They bullied him. And it was great to see. Great to see.
It was really amazing to watch how this all transpired. Let's talk about that defensive line a little bit more. Wyatt Hubert, man, this kid, you can just see him growing into stardom, and he had this incredible sack of Jalen Hurts. Here's Wyatt Thompson with the call.
Really good protection. Now it breaks down, and a sack by Wyatt Hubert at the 34 with 3 seconds to go.
Oh man, he's Thor. He's just turning into a superhero for me. It's really fun to watch. We've got a great question here from CFI HDE. I think that's how he wants it done. Did the coaching staff turn a corner, or did they just get up for another big game like Mississippi State?
No, I think coaching staff turned a corner. I mean, you got to give them credit too. We can't just say, "Oh, well, they just got up for the game." The coaches want to win. The coaches want to win every game. I mean, this is one thing about coaching in sports that people don't realize. This is their job. This is their job. So if they're not doing well, they could be fired. So they're trying to win every single game. They're not just out there, let's just go through the motions and things like. No, that's not what's happening. They want to win. So they've turned the corner too. They got to learn kind of what you mentioned earlier. They've got to learn what guys do well, what they do well. It's a whole new coaching staff. It's a whole new system, not necessarily system to them, but a different conference, a different feel, a different division of football. So the coaching staff can get better too, because if they're not getting better, it's kind of what I mentioned earlier. I mean, they're getting left behind. Everybody can continue to get better, and the coaching staffs get better too. So yes, they were definitely turned a quarter. Definitely turned a quarter.
It was really impressive, and let's build off of that with what I picked for our CaddyshackGolf.com question of the week. This is from Email Wildcat 82. It's kind of redundant to say Email and Wildcat. Maybe I should talk to him about that, but it's a great question. So was Lincoln Riley outcoached by head coach Chris Kleiman? And he notes that OU was the team running the trick plays in this game, not K-State.
Well, I mean, I noticed that some people put that on Facebook earlier. Running trick plays is part of what they do all the time, and it's part of what any program does. So they do that no matter who they're playing. So that part doesn't have anything to do with it. But as far as Coach Kleiman out coaching him, that absolutely happened. I mean, that goes without saying that happened. Like I said, he's supposed to be an offensive genius, and I don't discredit that he is. But he didn't run the football. And when you're not going to run the football, or at least try to attempt to run the football, that's a problem. And they just didn't do it. And like I said, OU has prided themselves on running the football the last 3 or 4 years, and they just refuse to do it. Now, maybe they saw something and didn't think they could, but I know they stopped doing it, so that was to our advantage. So I absolutely believe he was outcoached.
Yeah.
And good for us.
I agree. I thought Coach Messingham, as offensive coordinator, put together a really good plan. The kids executed it. Chris Kleiman might be a defensive whiz, but it was his offense that really came through for the Wildcats. They scored 48 points on Oklahoma, and it was on an Oklahoma defense that guys like me have been saying, this is a totally different group. This is a different thing. Oklahoma's finally got a defense. Well, it didn't look like it today, did it?
No, it didn't. But you know what? I'm not going to be that guy that says that they don't, because they've still played some decent teams. Yeah. I mean, they played Texas, and their defense played well. I mean, they've played some teams, and their defense has played well. I just believe that we played better than they did today. That happens when you're dealing with college kids or you're dealing with anybody. I mean, you can win any game, regardless of the talent levels. If you put together a plan and your kids believe in it and they come out and they execute, that we just played a good game. We just played better than they did. Doesn't mean that their defense isn't any good. It just means that we played better. That's literally, I truly believe that. I believe that if we did that, we could win the game, and we did do that, and we won the game. So good for us.
That's Brian Hanley, our football analyst, based out of Frisco, Texas. You might know him from that 98 Kansas State football team that was the best college football team I've ever covered by far. He was an offensive lineman. And today, Chris Kleiman clearly took the mantle of the program. I feel that way from Coach Snyder. I know that other guy had a big win over Texas, but that one had a fluky feel to it. This one had some substance to it. And I don't feel like they're going to take their eyes off the prize here. They'll pick up this momentum and move into KU. Let's hear from Chris Kleiman about how they constructed this offense and how it really came through for K-State.
Yeah, when we were down, 10-0 quickly, and then 17-7, it was neat because we were moving the line of scrimmage on offense. And so I thought if we were able to sustain some drives, we might be able to wear them down a little bit. And that's hard to say against a great team like that, but I thought we could. And then it's no different. Once you get a rhythm going offensively and you get some belief, I'm so proud of our offensive line. Everybody rides those guys so much, and our inability to rush a football sometimes, they took it upon themselves. And you'll notice the one thing that I said we were going to do on the perimeter run is we were going to cut guys down. We had not done it all year because our guys were afraid of getting penalties, and we worked on it all week, and we cut guys on the perimeter, and we ended up getting some big runs.
He points to Harry Trotter, who did a great job in that area, blocking for his teammates, accepting the role. They just did so many little things. That looked like the North Dakota State offense we thought we'd see. That finally looked like it, and it was awfully fun. It's a fun brand of football when they get going.
Yeah, it is. I loved it. Guys, like I said, for me, being an old offensive lineman, it was good to see the guys getting back to pushing guys around, being confident in what they were doing. I'm not saying they weren't confident before, but you could just see them from the opening snap. You could just see that the guys were like, hey, we're locked in and we're ready to go. And it was on both sides of the ball. So it's a fun win. It's a great win. Coach definitely has taken the program by the horns, and that's what he needed to do. So I think he knows the kind of things that he has to do to take the program over, and I believe that he's done that. So expectations are going to be high. I know that. But you know what? Is one game at a time. We got a game next week, and keep progressing, keep getting better. I know we just need to stay focused and just win the next game.
Let's move on to a couple other things. I feel like there's so much to talk about, Brian, and I don't want this podcast to get too long, but I want to play this play because it was just enormous in the course of this game. OU tried to run a trick play. K-State covered it after having great success on their first trick play, which is was a really cool concept, a little screen out there, bubble screen on the side, but he threw it backwards and then got it back to Jalen Hurts, who had a wide-open receiver. How he didn't score, I don't know. They tried to come back to a reverse and throw the ball, and it blew up on him because the receiver who was throwing it tried to get a little greedy. When his first guy was covered, he tried to go to a second guy, and this was what happened.
2nd and 13 from the 21. Hurts will swing it to the far side, and now Basquin fakes the throw, and now will throw it into the middle of the field, and it's picked off. It's bobbled and intercepted by A.J. Parker. He's at the 20, to the 15, to the 14-yard line. Jalen Hurts makes the stop. What a big play for the Cats.
Huge play. A.J. Parker got the tip ball, returned it down to the 15. K-State ends up scoring. Man, the defense they get turnovers. They had the big play on the special teams with the short kick. It wasn't an onside kick. The short kick that they ended up covering. Little things. They executed little things that they had they needed to do in this game. It started to make you believe. It's like you kept thinking, okay, OU's going to come back. Oh, there's an interception. Oh, there's a recovery on the onside kick or the short kickoff. It just kept piling up, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Things just kept moving in the right direction. And, I was waiting, okay, they're going to put a drive together. Okay, they're going to put a drive together. And they just never did. And we kept putting the drives together. And we kept just pushing and pushing and pushing. And it was just so fun to watch a plan come together and a team come together. They just played physical. They just played a lot more physical this game than what I've seen them play in the last 3 games, really. And it was good to see because I believe that the guys were better than what they had shown the last 3 weeks. And today was a good indicator of how good we can be because, bar none, Oklahoma is a very, very good football team. And maybe we caught them on a bad day. I don't know. But I didn't see it that way. I saw it as us catching them on the day that we were just better than they were. That's all.
That's what it looked like to me, too. That's a great way to put it. That's why we have you on, Brian Hanley. That kind of crackling analysis. I don't feel like OU looked past K-State. I don't feel that way at all. They came out firing. They came out running trick plays. They were playing OU football, and then K-State hit them. And then K-State hit them again and hit them again. And maybe the biggest thing K-State did in this game, and how basic is this, they tackled. They tackled so much better. And they only had one play where they looked, like the K-State team that can't pull guys down. In their defense, CeeDee Lamb's really good, and everyone has that problem with him. But here's Chris Kleiman on tackling and trying to contain Jalen Hurts, who didn't have the win, but still had marvelous stats and still might be my guy I vote for in the Heisman Trophy. Here's Coach Kleiman.
It was better. Jalen Hurts is a big man running the football, and we bounced off him a few times, but kept having a bunch of hats to the football, and I was really pleased. And, those guys up front just kept battling, and that's a 230-pound, 220-pound tailback playing quarterback with a great arm, and so obviously pleased with everybody.
We have to cover one more thing before we sign off here, and I want to go back to him. It's Skylar Thompson. Someone asked here, great basic question. Herdez Joe wants to know, did Skylar turn the corner? I loved it. I thought mentally for me, he turned the corner. He started really trusting everything and standing in the pocket, running when he should run, throwing when he should throw. That was the guy that was advertised.
I believe he turned the corner. But kind of what I mentioned earlier, I believe that it happened last week at the end of the game because confidence breeds confidence. And I believe that last week's game, when he wasn't playing his best, he did play his best at the end of the game and got us a win. I believe that just carried over into the next week. So I believe that he has turned the corner. I absolutely believe. I don't believe it was a fluky game. I don't believe it, he just got up and he just played this one good game. I don't believe that. And I would say it if I believe that because, like I mentioned before, I've been hard on him. I thought he should play better. I thought he should be better. And today he was better. So you got to give the kid credit. He played an outstanding football game today, and I don't see it going back the other direction. Doesn't mean it won't, but I just don't believe that it will because I believe that confidence, like I said, confidence breeds confidence. He did it the week before when he had to. That turned and translated over into an entire football game today, which I don't see why that can't just keep on continuing and him just keep getting better and better and better.
Well, he did it on the ground. He got into the end zone 4 times. 4 of Kansas State's 6 touchdowns, plus a couple field goals by Blake Lynch, were the 48 points K-State scored in beating Oklahoma. And here's the first touchdown Skylar scored in the game.
K-State will run the option. Here's Skylar Thompson. He walks it in from the 4, and it's 10-6. Touchdown K-State. Big-time drive by the Wildcats there.
Brian, in the midst of all this, we missed that. They ran the option. They haven't shown that all year, and that had to surprise OU. And kudos to Coach Messingham. Courtney Messingham pulled that out right at the end zone and said, we're going to get 6 points.
Yeah, that was beautiful. It opened wide up. You could tell that OU was not prepared for that at all because, they had guys running everywhere except to the quarterback. Yep. So it was a great thing to see. But you know what? Option football has always worked. I remember running it, back in 97 and 98, when I was there, we used to run the option on the goal line, short yardage situations all the time. It's just you can outnumber people. And literally what happened, that's what you're trying to get to happen. Guys running everywhere except to the quarterback.
Another great question from the incredible Gulk. Is this QB run game going to make this offense more effective? We've been saying it. You got to have it in there, and it looks like they kind of had a agreement. We're going to run the quarterback. We're not going to pound you into the ground, but we got to use it. And it really does add an element that is tough to stop for defenses.
Well, it has to. You have to. I mean, if that's part of the offense or anything to do with offense, you got to run your quarterback. That's just the way the game's played today. I mean, you got to be able to outnumber guys and be able to run the football when you're doing that. And having that extra blocker, per se, is going to help. So, like you said, he doesn't need to be a 20-carry guy a game, because that's just asking. You're just asking for trouble if you do that. But to run it 8-10 times a game, hey, nothing wrong with that. You know, make the hay while you can make the hay. That's my whole thing about it when you're running a quarterback. Get the yards, get positive yards. You don't want to be taking negative yards when you're running a quarterback, because otherwise you're defeating the purpose of doing it. So I believe you have to run the quarterback in today's football to be successful, and K-State does. It looks like they're doing it, and like you said, they've come to some sort of agreement. Hey, we're going to do it. We're going to do it successful. We're going to do it enough to keep teams honest and to give us positive yards. Yeah. We're going to do it to advance the football and to keep people off balance, which is what you need to do to be successful.
And when you run the ball successfully and you run the ball with your quarterback, it slows down that defensive line. They were playing from the front. They could draw back and throw, and, you know, it'd be a little bit of a surprise. And Skyler was so good. We talked about it in the first half of this podcast, 18 of 28 throwing the ball. He was on the money most of the day. A lot of those were throwaways, which is something he hasn't been doing this year very often. He just would surrender a play and throw it away. He was so confident, 213 yards. Here's one of those great passes, 5 completions to Dalton Schoen.
It's 3rd and 15 now for the Cats after the penalty. Thompson is back to throw. Pretty good protection. Shoots it high over the middle. Caught by Schoen. He's got a first down at the 22-yard line. Perfectly thrown. He had to go up a bit, but a great throw there. How about this Cat football team?
It's unbelievable. What a game.
Yeah, it really was unbelievable. That was Stan Weber at the very end of that, how well K-State played. Another little piece of sound here. Here's Chris Kleiman on his junior quarterback, Skylar Thompson.
What can you say about Skylar Thompson? You know, he was under duress. He fired the ball, threw it on time, made great checks at the line of scrimmage. And, you know, for us not to turn the football over against those guys was really big.
It's really tough to wrap all of it up in a short little podcast like this. We'll have more podcasts all week at GoPowerCat.com. If you're not a subscriber, 60% off your subscription. Very limited time here as we celebrate the big win by offering you a big discount. Get over to GoPowerCat.com and grab that discount. One more question here from Wabash Station. ME Cat 14 wants to know, why haven't they played this way against lesser teams? Why OU? Why did this happen?
I mean, it's a good question. First off, there's the injury factor. Maybe the game plan wasn't as good as what you wanted it to be or maybe should have been. Also, clearly, guys get up to play big teams. I mean, that always happens. I mean, you can't ignore that guys are going to be more fired up to play one of the top teams in the country. That's part of it, too. But at the same time, I just believe that we hit them in the mouth. We hit them hard in the mouth. And OU seemed like it was a young football team. Didn't take the punch very well at all. Where other teams that we have played that you may say that are lesser teams are a little bit more experienced, and they came out and they hit us in the mouth first. Although OU scored first, we were never, I mean, it wasn't like we were out of the game. It was like, yeah, they came out, they ran something, but we came right back. We always came right back, where the other games we didn't come back. We didn't fight back. A little bit of it has to do with we were at home, too, you know, because that works. I mean, that's always positive, but it was a combination of things. I don't think we should look too deep into that, though. I mean, if you want to really look too deep into it, they're 18 to 22-year-old kids. So that has a lot to do with it, too. It's just a Saturday is a Saturday, and this Saturday was our Saturday.
It was a great sight to see. Kansas State 48-41. The Wildcats knock off number 5 Oklahoma at Bill Snyder Family Stadium. No time to rest and celebrate. On to the next week. It's KU in Lawrence. Certainly a game with high value to the fan base and a lot of the guys in the locker room. A win in Lawrence gets you bowl eligible. It really holds some significance. You don't want to be that other coach that beat some big-name teams and then turned around and lost to KU. You got to keep it going. Just got to keep it clipping. And,
we absolutely cannot have that.
Chris Kleiman's a 1 week at a time, 1 play at a time guy, just like Bill Snyder. We'll see if that applies. This has been the PowerCat Postgame Podcast. He's Brian Hanley. I'm Tim Fitzgerald. We do this every week. If you haven't listened, we will convene next week after that game in Lawrence and talk about what we expect to be, what we hope to be a big win over the Jayhawks, but we'll see. And we're sponsored by Caddyshack Golf. From the golf course to the tailgate. Show your purple pride all week long. Caddyshack Golf wear, caddy with 2 T's, caddyshackgolf.com. And remember the code GPC, for free shipping on your next order. Brian, thank you very much for joining us, and we're going to let Wyatt Thompson take us out with his final call of a remarkable game and a fun day for the fan base at Bill Snyder Family Stadium.
There's another knee, and that is going to do it. Your Wildcats have beaten number 5 Oklahoma, and the Cats rush the field. The Sooners are headed to their locker room. An incredible victory today by Chris Kleiman's Wildcats as we tick off the final 13 seconds here. K-State is 5-2, 2-2, and they stun number 5 Oklahoma today. Our final 48-41.
You've been listening to the PowerCat Postgame Podcast presented by Caddyshack Golf. PowerCat Podcast. All rights reserved. GoPowerCat.com and Spirit Street Publishing.
Fill me in. What happened?
30 years ago, the convent stole our children.
Ruth Wilson and Daryl McCormick star in the new Showtime original series, inspired by true events, The Woman in the Wall.
They're trying to bury this. All of it. The whole world looks at some people, but others just disappeared.
Girls were locked up and children were stolen. And you're trying to tell me no one knew anything about it?
I'm just trying to find my child!
The Woman in the Wall premieres January 19th on Paramount Plus, only with the Paramount Plus with Showtime plan.